For nearly 2 decades, you have turned to Illegal Curve Hockey as your destination for the latest news, audio, and analysis regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, and all things hockey in Manitoba. Join Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, and Ezra Ginsburg as a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Starts now.
Alrighty, here we go. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live at Cityplace, the second floor, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve pregame show. The Jets and the Dallas Stars in a little bit more than 2 hours' time. Game 2, the Jets look to get back on the winning track tonight as they look to equalize the series 1 game apiece against the Dallas Stars. Along with Ezra Ginsburg, along with Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss the game in its entirety, delve deep into game number 2 between the Jets and the Stars. Gentlemen, great to see you on this Friday night. You can feel the excitement in the air already, the buzz in the air as people are heading downtown, getting ready to head into the arena, head into the whiteout party, wherever they may be going. Game 2, a couple hours away.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be back here at Cityplace Food Court. Our, as we call it, the home away from home boys, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, a monumentally important game 2, obviously, right? Jets need to even up the series. We know, guys, that if the Jets go down 2-0, we know how hard it is to come back in a 7-game series, right? So we don't have to remind anybody how important tonight's game is, but I mean, I'm assuming we have to start off with the huge news that number 44 is going to be back in the lineup. Well, it hasn't been confirmed, Dave. Scott Arniel was being a little tongue-in-cheek, saying probably, as you mentioned, but I think it was pretty safe to say then that when JMO was taking the power play reps with the normal first power play unit, we knew that he was going to be back tonight, and that's huge, guys, because as we just touched on, this is a huge game tonight, and to have your number 1 defenseman back is obviously huge, Dave.
Well, and the other big piece of news that we got today was that no Miro Heiskanen, Pete DeBoer, was on with doing his media availability shortly after Scott Arniel, and that was the other thing he said, because we didn't know exactly what was going to happen with Miro Heiskanen. So sure enough, the top defenseman for the Dallas Stars, he's not in, but the top defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets, he is likely back in.
More than
based
likely,
on probably.
Right.
So he wouldn't confirm it, but that was as close to as a confirmation as we've heard from Scott Arniel during the playoffs. So and as he says, the fact that he was practicing with Dylan DeMello, the fact that he was in a power play role with the top unit, that to me is an indication he is back. And I got to tell you, I'm shocked. I mean, again, when I was writing about it in a couple days ago, I thought for sure Scheifele was in for game 1, and I didn't think Josh Morrissey was in necessarily in the first couple of games, so he's in sooner than later, and that couldn't have come at a better time for a Jets team that, I'm not going to call this a must-win game, guys, but it's pretty close.
I'll call it a must-win. It's a must-win, Dave. It's not necessarily a franchise-defining game like Game 7 was.
Yeah, we had those already.
But I would call it a must-win. Obviously, you can still win the series losing 2 games, Dave, but we saw what happened in the first round, St. Louis going down 2-0. They had to scratch and claw their way back, tie up the series, and then, what happened in Game 7, right? So if it's not a must-win, it's definitely a can't-lose game.
Well, you don't want to lose both on home ice, but there is precedence for the Winnipeg Jets losing both on home ice and then winning the next 2 games on the road. If you remember back in 2018, they lost the 2 games at home to St. Louis to start that series and then went into St. Louis and won the next 2 before ultimately falling in 6 games. So it's not unheard of that circumstances like that happen, but the Winnipeg Jets obviously don't want to delve down that road. They want to avoid that trap as much as possible. And they are, for the first time in these playoffs, I'm not going to say they're fully healthy because nobody's fully healthy, but they're at full strength.
They have their regular lineup back together. You look at the line, guys, and obviously they didn't have Brandon Tanna for the majority of the season, but obviously Morgan Barron has been a staple of the 4th line. Alex Iafallo has played a lot on the 4th line. He's played also a lot on every single line. Yeah. But when you're talking about whether it's the 3rd line of Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton, or the top line of Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde, 2nd line obviously has played a lot together, right, Drew? So you're right. I mean, these guys are still banged up. Every single team that's left in the 2nd round I mean, when the Tampa Bay I'm not sure if you guys saw the Tampa Bay Lightning's injury report after. It was like broken leg, bruised ribs, severed foot. Like it was ridiculous, right? So, I mean, we know that these guys are dealing with a lot. It's possible Josh Morrissey himself is not at 100%, but he's good enough to go, which is the most important thing.
That's exactly right. There's no question that they're not at 100%. Nobody is. But for the Winnipeg Jets, just the psychological boost, Dave, that I think is going to come from the fact that the Jets have their regular 18, that they have the 18 skaters, or they have their pick of their players. Now, Luke Shen and Logan Stanley are unlikely to be in the lineup based on morning skate. It sounds like the Jets are going to go with a better skating pair in Hayden Fleury and Colin Miller on the back end. So that's something we'll delve into here on the Illegal Curve pregame show as we're coming to you live from Cityplace. But really, it does start with Josh Morrissey and him being back in the lineup. Oh, by the way, the Jets' power play, which has been struggling for the last, I'm going to say, couple of months. It hasn't been fantastic, let's say.
Prior to round one.
Right. When, again, Gabe Vilardi was out of the lineup, Nikolai Ehlers was out of the lineup. Now you have the power play as you want it constructed with Morrissey, Vilardi, Ehlers, Scheifele, Connor, a power play that was absolutely dynamic and dynamite during the regular season when they were together.
Look, I'm not going to compare Illegal Curve to it, but when the three of us are not doing the show together, it's not as good. We can still get it done, but it's not as good a show.
I don't know. When it's just you and I, it's pretty good.
That's true.
It's a little more mic time. That's true.
It's better when it's the two of you than when I'm somewhere else entirely.
My point is that when you have the band back together, it just flows better. And that first unit, look, they had some good looks yesterday.
Yeah.
They didn't convert, but they had some good looks. And they were moving it around quickly, so you like that. But, again, it changes the nature of it based on how Josh Morrissey plays versus, let's say, Neil Pionk. So this way you're now going to have the configurations back to normal for the first time in 1,000 years. And, I think, like I said, that game didn't have that energy level that it needed. This game, I don't think, is going to lack from it. It's a Friday night.
Yeah.
Everyone's excited. People know the only thing they have to get up for tomorrow is the Illegal Curve hockey show, and that doesn't start till 9, so they know they've got plenty of time to sleep in.
This could be Toronto versus Winnipeg.
There we go. We got a
prediction of Toronto versus the Jets in the Stanley Cup.
Now we still have to get a few rounds.
Yeah, you got to get a couple rounds still to go, but there you go. We got a prediction coming to us here.
The Leafs look like they're about to go up 3-0 in the series.
Wow.
So there you go. But that we'll
keep going, Dave.
I understand. Focus. We're just trying to make this. This is a bit of an engaging show, but
we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now.
But the point is that the power play can be that difference maker.
Sure.
And it needed to be in that game. I mean, look, you have 4 opportunities, 3 in a row early, and you don't convert. That hurt them. If you can do it,
especially when Dallas converted on one of their 2 opportunities.
Right. And so, if you're the Winnipeg Jets and you know that you need to look at some areas of potential opportunity, I think the power play with Josh Morrissey back is going to be a major difference maker. Especially, and the other thing we also have to consider is, like, guys are just getting back to their sort of conditioning in their legs and their hands and their feet and any other body parts. But
I think it's the hands in particular, because you've seen Nikolai Ehlers struggle some,
absolutely.
Where, he had the good quality rush where he cut in front of Ottinger in the third period on Wednesday's game 1.
Yeah.
But there's been other times where he's bobbled the puck where his hands seem to be behind where his skating is.
Right. And same with Vilardi.
No question.
So to me, it's like you're giving these guys, you haven't seen the Jets play their A game. And again, people can say, well, it's already the second round. Why are they not playing their A game? But I would just suggest that now that these guys are back, you've got that consistency of the lineup. These guys all have that familiarity of who they're playing with. They played with each other for, not like an insignificant period of time throughout the course of the season. I think you're going to see a much different Jets team, a much more motivated Jets team. And I would expect this series to be 1-1 at the end of this game.
Well, you know what I'm looking forward tonight, and really Scott Arneal's been talking about it, the players been talking about it, just how game 1 just didn't have that emotional level, and that's not a surprise.
Well, we said it right immediately after.
Right, we said it that
it's funny because sorry, Drew, but isn't that what Scott Arneal said? He said it felt like game 45 in December.
Right,
which is what we said after. It was like, well, that didn't feel like a playoff game, given what we just came from in Game 7.
I would expect that today is going to have a much different feel to it. I would expect that today, the lingering effects of the Game 7 victories for both teams, for the record, for both teams, I think are now done, and you're going to have, I would expect, a better jump and a better engagement level from both teams in tonight's game too, Ezzy.
Absolutely, and Dave mentioned Jake Ottinger, and I'm not sure if you guys heard our buddy Marty Baron on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I thought he said something really interesting. I wasn't necessarily going to get into it right off the bat, but if you
no time like the present, my friend.
Absolutely, and if you have a chance, Remus posted it on their X and Facebook and all their social media channels, Instagram. Everybody knows where to find Winnipeg Sports Talk, but he was talking about how Jake Ottinger likes to push maybe more than other goalies, going side to side, and he talked about how in round 1 versus Colorado, Cale Makar pump faked a few times, trying to get him moving so he could then shoot and catch him off. And I thought it was really interesting because, as everybody knows, Marty Baron is a regular guest of our show,
yes,
and he knows goaltending better than anybody. He played, 400 or 500 NHL games, right? And I just thought it was really interesting. To me, that's one thing that I'm looking at, not specifically that, because I hadn't thought about that, but just making it a little bit more difficult in front of Jake Ottinger. I think the Jets can put more rubber on him. Look, the Jets had chances, right? We talked about it on the postgame show. There was that mad scramble in front of the net with Velarde, and who else was in front of there? Lowry, right? Almost everybody on the Jets.
I think there were 11. I think there were 11 skaters on the ice, all within the blue paint. The Jets players and the Stars players all together.
Right. So I mean, if that goes in, or if Nikolai Ehlers' chance in the third period, if that goes in and it goes to overtime and the Jets win, we're having a very different conversation. The Jets being up 1-0 as opposed to being down 1. Right. So I think there's definitely things that you can exploit in Jake Ottinger's game. I think there's things you can exploit in Dallas's game. Look, Dallas is an amazing team. They're a highly skilled team, with or without Miro Heiskanen, right? Let's not forget that they beat the Avalanche without Heiskanen and Robertson.
He hasn't been in the lineup since January 28th.
Exactly, right?
Even if he comes back, it's not like he's coming back in full form.
No.
This is the guy who's, to your point, Dave, he's been out of the lineup for 4 months.
Right.
And that's something we'll be talking about. Let's say if Heiskanen comes back for game 3 or game 4, we're going to be talking about what kind of impact is he going to have? Because these guys have the ability, these guys are obviously super talented athletes. They can come back and be just as impactful as they were, like you said, when he went down in January. But I definitely think with less of an aggressive forecheck than you saw against St. Louis, Dallas gives you more space. And that's one thing that I think the Jets can take advantage of. It's obviously easier said than done, but I think, whether that's on your zone entries, whether that's just having extended O-zone shifts, right? You want to see more of that from the Jets, because we saw a little bit of it in the second period, and obviously, let's be honest, if there's one thing, if you're the Jets and you're a Jets fan, that you're probably the most optimistic of, or you're grasping onto the most, is how they played in the third. Right? They kept Dallas to 4 shots. The high danger chances were 6-1, 7-1, whatever they were. The Jets were clearly the better team in the third period. It's the start and the middle part of the game where they have to be better.
Well, and to that point, Ezzy, one of the things that Scott Arniel talked about, and we kind of said it as well, is that this team, they had a lot more time. And Arniel said when they reviewed the video yesterday or after the game, they said one of the things they noticed was that they had way more time than they expected. So they're getting rid of pucks like a hot potato, and yet if you started counting 1,000 steamboats to about 4 or 5, you still had time with the puck. And so the problem was that they were getting rid of it, they were making dumps, they were giving away possession.
They were playing a game like they were playing against St. Louis.
That's right, because they were anticipating that every time they had the puck, they were going to get hit, because look at the way the St. Louis Blues played.
Yeah.
And the Jets, clearly they hadn't adjusted enough in that first period, Ezzy, and even into the second, where they were like, wait, this is a different team. This isn't St. Louis Blues. We're not going to be put through the wall, the moment we have the puck. And again, don't get me wrong, there are guys on Dallas who can hit and play physical, but that's not their brand of hockey. And so I just think that that's one area we'll see if the Jets can exploit, to the point that my colleague here to my left was just making, is that will the Jets possess that puck longer, make those better passes, and then, of course, get in deep into the zone and try and create from that.
Well, I think the reason that Dallas has to play that way is because the right side of their defense, without Heiskanen, is vulnerable. We talked about that in the pregame show for Game 1. You look at the right side of that defense, they're not fleet of foot.
Right.
So if they're pressing up on the Jets...
By the way, Drew, see, the Winnipeg Police aren't taking me away here.
Give it time, guys, preemptively. But, if they press up on the Jets at the blue line, if they try and do what the Jets do, which is usually have that aggressive gap, there's an opportunity for the Jets to walk around them and use that speed, take them wide, and then cut it inside. And all of a sudden, what looks like it might be an even rush is advantage to the Winnipeg Jets. So they did talk about that extensively. Scott Arniel said that in the video review. Look, if they're giving you time and space, take the time and space, because that's not something that regularly comes your way. That's something usually the Jets can use to their advantage, and it's certainly the opposite of what they saw in the series against St. Louis.
And that's where players like Nikolai Ehlers and Josh Morrissey are obviously going to be huge in the series, guys. We talked about it. This is, and Drew mentioned it when he referred to Hayden Fleury and Colin Miller being in the lineup over Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn. We should mention, we don't even know if Logan Stanley, I believe, Dave, would be an option. He
was wearing the regular jersey.
Yeah,
right, but we don't know necessarily if he would.
Arniel said his first skating was 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So he's just back onto the ice. But again,
it's more so Schenn that's being taken out of the lineup as opposed to Logan Stanley not being put into the lineup.
Look, and I think that this makes a lot of sense. Let me just, regarding the Jets, let's assume that nobody's fully healthy. And Luke Schenn, was a warrior.
Everyone's injured.
Well, Luke Schenn was a warrior in that series against the Blues, right?
Yeah.
He was laying the body. He got hit a bunch of times. Got exploited a couple times as well.
He was on the ice for the most 5-on-5 goals against in that series.
Exactly.
Among the defensemen.
And so if you can then, so what have you seen from Hayden Fleury and Colin Miller so far in, I guess this is Hayden Fleury's third game. Fourth game.
Yeah.
I guess
third or fourth.
Well, this would be his
fourth. Third. You're right.
third game. He played game 2 for DeMello. When DeMello was sick, he came in.
Right, this will be his fourth because he played the 2 games in the Dallas series, and now this will be game number 4 after playing game 1. Hayden Fleury's looked fine for the Winnipeg Jets, better than fine. And Colin Miller, this is going to be his third game.
The fourth, confirmed.
Yeah.
Fact check.
Thank you for fact checking. This is going to be Colin Miller's third game.
Yeah.
And he's also looked very good for the Winnipeg Jets. So I don't think the Jets are the least bit concerned about going with Miller and Fleury, especially in a series that might play to their strength, this being more of a skating series than a physical series. And at the same time, you also allow Luke Schenn to maybe rest a little bit.
Yeah.
You allow Logan Stanley to rest a little bit or get a little bit healthier. I think that this is what we talk about when you talk about depth. Remember, we talked about when they acquired Luke Schenn that when he won the Cup with Tampa Bay, he wasn't an every game player. Right. He was a pick and choose kind of player. Maybe
him Jets, and Bogo.
Right. Him and Jets are maybe the Jets are beginning to sort of look at the matchups and are now in a position where they can tailor their pairings a little bit more now that they're back to a little more health.
Yeah, and I would argue, Dave, before you get in here, that these are the ideal D pairings based on what the advanced stats say.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And obviously Colin Miller being on his right side, you prefer over being on the left side, even though, we were arguing that, if you need to play him on the left side to get him into the lineup, then put him on the left side. He did pretty well last game.
I would argue. Fine on the left side. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, he talked about it a little bit today.
Right, and it's
so what did he say?
I wasn't really listening.
Okay. No,
that's why you're the analyst.
As he was talking about.
No, it's all good. I was just going back to what I said. I was just going to say that I think these are the ideal D pairings for the Jets, right?
Yeah.
All due respect to Luke Schenn. I mean, Luke Schenn, I think, could do a fine job on that third pair on the right side. I would prefer, especially given the opponent, Colin Miller on that right side, and especially to have him as the option on the second power play unit.
Yeah, the only thing you lose with Colin Miller, without Luke Schenn, is that element of physicality, and we'll see why other,
Colin Miller's no slouch though. I feel like Miller doesn't get enough respect.
Schenn is the big body who's going to protect the front of the net.
I mean, basically 99.9% of the NHL is less physical than Luke Schenn.
And smaller than Luke Schenn.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a man giant.
Again, so a guy like Jamie Benn, what kind of impact does this have? Are the Stars now going to try and put the puck in the corner to do what the Blues did, which is try and take advantage of a smaller Jets defense with a guy like Luke Schenn out? Now, quite honestly, given the time and space that the Jets had in Game 1, I don't think that they're going to have less time and space in Game 2. So I think they'll be fleet of foot enough that they'll be able to make those quick dumps, quick passes. They won't have to worry about it as much. So we'll see how that impacts it in that, if you will, that element of the chess match. But I mean, one of the things that we've talked about for however long is the idea that you don't have. I mean, again, you have your top 4 set.
Right.
You're not touching the top 4. Right? We know,
now that they're healthy.
Now that they're healthy, but I'm saying when they're healthy, that top 4 is not going anywhere, and we know who they are, and they're established. But the truth is, what you needed to be able to say is like, listen, if you need Colin Miller and Hayden Fleury, then those are going to be your guys, and you're going to ride them for as long as you can ride them. And if you start winning with this combo, it's not like they're going to be like, okay, well, now we've had enough. And I don't think it's a bad thing to let Luke Schenn heal up. I think that there's probably something that's, bugging him a little bit, and we just saw that he wasn't, again, we saw a guy who was not, he's in the zenith of his career, right? So it's not as if he's
Zenith or Zenith?
Zenith. I was thinking that too, but probably Zenith. But
Potato.
yeah. Regardless, do you want me to spell it? I'll spell it properly.
It's a great word.
Yeah.
You guys remember former NHLer Zenith Komarniski? I always liked that name.
I remember Zarli Zalapski.
Yeah, Zarli Zalapski.
Another good
That would have
one.
been my
Double Z.
That would have been my Zed, but no, I just think here's a guy who you can afford to let him sit, heal, not necessarily drain him out to play him especially because this series doesn't have that extra day in between. You're playing
It's
every second day. And I don't anticipate, again, unless something crazy happens, where you lose the advantage of the matchups, that suddenly they're going to put him in for 3 and 4. So my guess is you're going to, and one of the things that I saw T. Konopoli mentioning this in the chat a little bit earlier, and it's important, his shot. His shot is significant.
Colin
Miller. He's
Sure.
got the best shot on the team. Well, up from the back end, I would say.
Yeah.
And so
he's got a bomb from the
He's got a bomb.
point. Yeah.
And so, that's something that teams have to be aware of. And so you'll see if that's has an impact. So, again, he's a guy that we've all had time for. We had time for him last year when the Jets were...
He's a solid third pair defenseman. He really is, right? And the advanced stats back it up. He's got lots of NHL experience. He knows how to play the game. He can skate. We talked about the big shot, and I think he's got an underrated physical game. So I think he's earned his place in the lineup. And I think Drew makes a good point. Dave, you touched on it as well. It can't hurt to give a guy like Luke Schenn, like all due respect, Luke Schenn is not a
spring chicken.
He's not a spring chicken,
Yeah.
right? And
He's
he blocks a lot of shots.
As you can almost say, he's in the zenith or zenith of his career.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you were going to say he's in the Zarli Zalapski of his career.
That would have been funnier.
Yeah, there you go. You can use that material next time. But you're absolutely right. Look, this is what options gives you. This is what a full roster gives you. It gives you the ability to pick and choose your players. It gives you the ability to tailor your lineup for how you want it or how you think it's going to be the ideal situation.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something you have not been able to say for the Winnipeg Jets through the first 8 games of the playoffs. And to your point, which I think was an astute one earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. First time for everything here. Is that
with all this complimenting each other, I don't know who you
right?
guys are.
That was a little bit of a backhanded shot, but okay.
But Nikolai Ehlers, another game under his belt to get comfortable with the puck. Same with Gabe Velarde, another game to get his skating back. Yes, same true for the Dallas Stars with Jason Robertson, and we'll touch on that later on throughout the course of this show and talk about Mikko Rantanen.
By the way, as an aside, I sometimes will look back and see the comments, and someone was like, you guys were saying that the Dallas Stars are not as talented as the Jets forward groups, and I'm like, did you actually listen to our show?
No, people don't listen before
I honestly
they comment.
think people just comment, and then I'm like, I don't think we ever said that.
No.
In fact, I'm pretty
Dallas
sure-
is easily one of the deepest teams in the league.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I think we have mentioned that several
Well,
times
that's why I thought it
throughout
was
the
funny.
years.
I was
Not
like-
just this year. Dallas has been very deep for several years.
Especially, and full credit to Pete DeBoer, and we talked about this on the postgame show after Game 1. We said, okay, the fourth line, maybe it's not as talented as the Winnipeg Jets' fourth line.
It is when you put Rantanen on it.
Exactly right. So, what that talking point or that idea was immediately done away with because they double shifted Mikko Rantanen to such great success. And of course, that's going to be an area that the Winnipeg Jets are going to have to try and figure out a way to stop him. He's been unstoppable for the last 6 periods of hockey that he's played. How talented he is and how effective he's been for the Dallas Stars, and that's going to be that's target number 1 for the Winnipeg Jets is figuring out a way to make sure that he doesn't take the game over and score a natural hat trick in 8 minutes like he did in Game 1. And we'll get to that in the course of this this pregame show.
I don't think anybody would argue that Rantanen took over the game. He had a good stretch for during the second
He didn't
period.
take over the game.
Well, he had an 8-minute stretch where that led to the Dallas Stars to victory.
I'm not suggesting otherwise, but I'm saying that I wouldn't suggest, again, the narrative. The problem is, and again, this is our media colleagues who have a tendency to create narratives that fit the, whatever they want to make a video about. They're like, Mikko Rantanen did this, and I'm like, well, no, there's 52 minutes of the game that he wasn't doing that. Again, I think he was very impactful, and I like the way he plays defense, to be honest with you. I thought his defensive game was good in Game 1, but I just thought it was funny because I'm like, well, he had a great 8-minute stretch. You could also say the Jets had a poor 8-minute stretch.
Sure. But, that he has that ability to, in 8 minutes of action or 8 minutes of control, he won the game for the Dallas Stars. I mean,
Yes,
that's
he did.
something
He was
that's a
extremely
superstar
impactful.
player. That's what a
Right.
superstar player can do. Is if he gets hot for
What does he have? 14 points in his last 4 games. Like he's not.
Yeah.
We're not going to sit here and denigrate his abilities.
Well, and that's why the Winnipeg Jets, and they talked about it. Is how do you find a way to slow him down? What do you do to mitigate his impact? I don't think you're necessarily going to stop him entirely.
It's like the old. What they would always say, or still say in the NBA with LeBron James. Right, like you're never going to completely stop LeBron James. You can only contain him.
Right.
And Mikko Rantanen, or whoever you want to pick, of
Nathan
the
McKinnon,
greats.
Connor McDavid,
exactly.
Leon
the
Draisaitl, superstars.
Exactly, and that's what Mikko Rantanen is. He's a superstar, and he reminds me a lot of Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby, right? Because he played with Nathan McKinnon for all those years, like. Rantanen had back-to-back 100-point seasons.
Right.
Right? Like, it's not like Mikko Rantanen all of a sudden in the last 2 months just became this great player.
You're saying he was in the shadow of McKinnon for a little while.
Yes, and I'd say similar to Malkin. Like, Mikko Rantanen is putting together, like, a future Hall of Fame career. That's how good he is, and I'm not saying that, like, hyperbolically. Like, he is that good. And I think that, when you're talking about stopping Rantanen, just like if you're talking about stopping Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon, you got to take away time and space and tie up sticks and everything like that. We saw that on, I believe that was his second goal. The rebound goal, was that the first goal or the second goal?
The first goal.
That was the first
goal.
The
one where Hellebuyck makes the save off of Dadonov.
And right.
Sandberg can't tie up a stick.
Exactly. And Sandberg was there, right? So, like, again, I wasn't going to be as hard on Sandberg as maybe some other people were going to be on him. I mean, this is a hard player to stop. Period, right, guys? But you have to do as much as you can to just limit the time and space he has out there.
Yeah.
And everybody says that, right? Like, it's ad nauseum. Everybody says the same thing, but it's really difficult. Certain players, like I said, it's almost like they're going to get a point or two. You just have to prevent them from getting 3 or 4 points in a game, right? Sure. And that's how good Rantanen is, and the Jets know that. And obviously, I imagine the Jets are going to want Morrissey and DeMello out there, and it'll be interesting to see which Jets line matches up against that line, because obviously Adam Lowry, that's your shutdown line with Nino Niederreiter and Mason Appleton. Are we going to see more of top line versus top line?
What I'm curious about, and Mike McIntyre is going to join us from the Winnipeg Free Press. He's going to join us in a couple minutes here, so that's something we can talk to him about, and we'll talk about later on in the pregame show as we're live here at Cityplace, second floor, the food court. Come on down if you're on the way to the game or on your way to the whiteout party. Come say hi to us here at Cityplace.
Stay behind the line.
Yeah,
we don't want Timmy to get upset.
No, producer
Cross
Tim.
that line.
No, producer Tim will get those elbows up. He's not afraid.
He's not afraid to mix it up in the corners
Tim played
as well.
hockey. He knows how to take care of himself.
Tim knows how to exactly.
Or he'll run you over with a Zamboni.
There you go. He can do it all. To me though, does Pete DeBoer continue to use Mikko Rantanen in that double shifting role? Does he continue to use them on the fourth line? Or are you worried that maybe he burns out as player by playing him all those extra minutes? Now that they have that first win in their pocket, that they have the home ice advantage going back to Dallas regardless of what happens in Game 2. Does he maybe look at trying something different, or taking his foot off the gas pedal when it comes to the usage of Mikko Rantanen in this game too? That's a question I have. It's something I'm going to be curious about as we watch tonight's game.
Coaches generally aren't known for changing things that are working. So, we'll see. We'll see what he chooses to do. But more importantly for Scott Arniel and his coaching staff is how do they adjust to that?
Sure. Because Arniel has to assume that they're going to use him the exact same way.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're Scott Arniel, that's what we're going to watch for, Drew. The moment you see that double shift where Rantanen goes out with the fourth line, how does Scott Arniel adjust? And so that's the chess match that these coaches have to engage in games, and that's what we tend to think of hockey as a simplistic game where it's just, okay, your line's up, but it's not.
Sorry, Dave, I'm distracted by the guy that's wearing the KFC bucket on his head.
Well, the best part is...
Shout out to that guy.
The best part, Ezzy, is that we actually had... Ezzy's computer is not on right now, but he can't see all the comments.
Well, just for the record, though, Drew has texted me for the last 5 days, I've got your power cord, Ez. I've got your power cord. And obviously, I get here, Drew gives me the power cord, but the computer was at 1%.
But that's the point of the power cord, is to plug it in so that you get battery power.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's just the funny thing is that I waited for the last 4 or 5 days to get the power cord back, but then my computer was...
I still don't understand. You don't need to preemptively charge your computer when you get the power cord.
Well, obviously,
it's a faulty power cord.
Okay, then there you go. That's the problem that we're running into here. We got lots of faultiness with this program, but
Lots
that's
of
okay.
faults, lots of faults.
That is our regular occurrence here with the Illegal Curve pregame show. Live on location, second floor, Cityplace. Our buddy Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, he's set to join us coming up in a couple minutes' time. So we'll go to break. We'll bring in Mike for more on the Jets and the Stars. Game 2 upcoming. Be sure to come say hello. Be sure to stop by all the great vendors here at Cityplace. And of course, we remind you after the game tonight, the Illegal Curve post-game show will recap everything that goes on between the Jets and the Stars in Game 2 tonight. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, producer Tim, Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, up next as well. Plenty more to come. Don't go anywhere. This is the Illegal Curve pregame show.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. Cityplace is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make Cityplace your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit Cityplace at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in 2 unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
We are back. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve pregame show ahead of the Jets and the Dallas Stars game number 2 in about, they're going to say 90 minutes time, but let's be honest, it's closer to about 110 minutes time. 8:52 is the expected puck drop later tonight. So it's going to be a late night, but we're used to it at this point in time. And looks like game 5 is also going to be a late night, assuming there is a game 5.
Because they already put a time?
They haven't yet, but I would assume because Carolina and Washington are a game each, and Game 5 is also scheduled. Their Game 5 is scheduled for the same night as the Jets and the Stars Game 5. You would expect.
That's a reasonable conclusion, then.
If history is any indicator, that it's likely also to be a late night. But at least Game 3 and 4 are reasonable hours.
I was going to say, Drew, who needs sleep? Sleep's not important.
Sleep for the week.
So there's one 7 o'clock game, and other than that, every other game is 3:30 or 8:30.
Seems to be the case so far. We don't know what time the Saturday night game is yet, but time will tell on that front. We see Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press, making his way to join us.
And I think we have an apple fritter for Mike as well.
Yes,
Shout out to the person who brought us 3 apple fritters.
People know how to win us over, and it's by giving us donuts.
Yes,
it's really it's a surefire way of getting into our good graces, is giving us donuts at any and all opportunity. From the Winnipeg Free Press, you see him on camera now, our good friend Mike McIntyre. Mike, good morning, good evening. Thank you for joining us. It's been a long couple of weeks for everybody, hasn't it?
What day of the week is it?
Well, you were what game was it after Game 5? Your travel schedule? Where you drove to Fargo in the middle of the night and
left. I was walking out of the arena, and who knew Mike was going to be driving still to get
left around 1:30 that night. Drove 4 hours to Fargo and hopped on a plane at 7 a.m. to St. Louis.
And then had a delay as well.
And then had a 5-hour delay. Yeah, I'm going to Dallas tomorrow, but a little more conventional, flying out of Winnipeg this time. Although my flight is at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, so we want this game to move pretty quickly. Otherwise, I'm going straight to the airport from here tonight.
No rest for the wicked.
Hold on, Mike, will that give you enough time to watch tomorrow's Illegal Curve 9 o'clock till 11?
I'm going to get the whole plane to watch it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, of course. For sure. We'll definitely all call in.
No, some people might nap, but Mike's not one of those people. He's going to be watching the entire show.
Mike never misses a show.
Appreciate your time, of course, Mike. Game 2 between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. Let's start with the fact that the Winnipeg Jets are not healthy, but they have their full complement of players available to them ahead of tonight's game. Psychologically, what do you think that does to the team in terms of, Scott Arniel being able to pick and choose who he wants to be on the ice tonight for the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuses, right? Not that the Jets have ever used injuries as an excuse, but they have not had everybody at their disposal for quite some time. In fact, I think you have to go back to March 23rd against the Buffalo Sabres, the last time this roster would have all been available. And in fact,
that's when Gabe Vilardi was injured.
Right, and I'd have to go back and look, but I feel like someone like Rasmus Kapari might have been banged up that night. The last time we were able to say that there were literally no injuries, I don't know when that was. And it gives Scott Arniel a lot of options and a lot of tough conversations. I asked him this morning about that, and that's probably a part of the job that the coach doesn't look forward to. How do you pull a guy like Luke Shen, for example, aside and say, we appreciate what you've done for us, but you're not in the lineup tonight. I've got 6 guys ahead of you that I'm going to play, and that's what Scott Arniel has had to do. But that's what happens when you have a deep team, and the Jets, they've used 8 defensemen already. Luke Shen, Logan Stanley, who won't play tonight. They've been in this series, and there's 3 forwards that aren't playing tonight that have already been in this series: Dominic Toninato, Jared Anderson-Dolan, and David Gustafsson. So. Right. The Jets, they have had to dip into their reserves, but they've got everyone available now. And I think, as to your point, psychologically, this group knows what it's capable of. And certainly when all the weapons are available, I think where, one area that the Jets will certainly look to take advantage of with this roster is the power play, which, let's face it, if it could even have gone 1 for 4 or 2 for 4 the other night, we might be talking about a 1-0 series lead. They've got everybody on that top power, the power play that for most of the season was the best in the league. Yeah. They've now got all 5 guys back. This will be the first time in the playoffs that they've had those 5 guys all available at the same time. So certainly the power play is an area that I think the Jets love having everybody available to see what kind of damage they can do.
Mike, unlike Drew, I'm not going to ask you a psychological question. I'm just going to ask you a straight-up normal sports hockey question. I think you'd probably agree, Connor Hellebuyck, we still have not seen the best of Connor Hellebuyck, with maybe the exception of Game 2, right? That was the game the Jets won 3-1 here. I guess knowing that we still haven't seen the Vezina Hart Trophy finalist Hellebuyck, how promising is that for you? It's Captain Obvious to say, this would be the best time for him to start showing us that he is that Hellebuyck that allows 2 goals or less, right? But
Yeah.
how optimistic are you about the Jets' chances of getting back and tying up the series, knowing that Connor Hellebuyck still hasn't really outplayed his opposing goalie yet?
I think we started to see signs of it in the first period the other day when the Jets, quite frankly, weren't very good, certainly for the first 10 minutes. Dallas had the first 8 shots and nine. So, and there was a couple that he had to be real good on, otherwise they're looking at a deficit. So that was the Connor Hellebuyck, I think, that we're expecting to see. And, if you look at all 3 goals, I thought the second goal in real time maybe wasn't the greatest one. That was a great tip, though, by Rantanen. It looked like Harley's shot might have gone straight in, that's
what I thought, too.
In which case, you're like, uh-oh.
That's an odor on that one, but then you see the tip.
Right, and the tip, even just a subtle change of direction is often enough. So, and then the third goal banks in off Dylan Sandberg's foot. That's going to happen. I think Game 1 was a real positive step that we started to see Connor Hellebuyck look a lot more like himself. To me, one of the big tests is going to be Game 3, and because look at his series, it was the road games that really, and if you're talking, I know you said it wasn't going to be a psychological question, but I feel like there is a mental hurdle there.
Right.
We've seen athletes get the yips, the baseball player, the shortstop that suddenly can't throw to first base.
Chuck Knobloch, Steve Sachs. There's been a litany of them.
Mandel.
David Duval was the world number 1 golfer.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he got the yips and was one of the worst golfers. So not to say that that's what's happened to Connor Hellebuyck, but I think there's various tests that you need to pass, and getting that Game 7 victory. And we heard from Connor Hellebuyck after that series earlier this week. He talked about the weight of the world feeling like it was off his shoulders. So I think we saw a more relaxed Connor Hellebuyck in Game 1. But you're right. I think there's another level, and we've seen that level. Ideally, if you're the Jets, you're playing well enough. You don't need your goalie to steal you a win that you don't deserve. You're playing well enough that your goalie is just complementing the great play on the ice. But you're right. I mean, I think in that entire first-round series against the Blues, we were all expecting Jordan Binnington and or Connor Hellebuyck to steal a game or 2 for their teams. That never happened at all. No. And, you look at Game 1, you could say, did Jake Ottinger steal that? I think Mikko Rantanen stole that more than anybody. Certainly Ottinger was really good, but Hellebuyck was good himself. So, yeah, I think if you're the Jets, you're confident that Connor Hellebuyck is starting to round into form, and certainly couldn't come at a better time than starting tonight.
Mike, when you watch that game on a sleepy Wednesday night, you're sitting there going, this does not feel like Game 1 of Round 2.
Yeah.
And Scott Arniel said as much to us in the Matt Frost Media Center, called it Game 45 in December. But from your perspective, do you think that's going to ramp up? Do you think we're going to see, it's a Friday night, we know the crowd's going to be great, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, the crowd was great on Wednesday, but again, it's different when it's a weekend. You don't have to wake up except for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 o'clock. But from your perspective, do you anticipate that this is going to get to that ramp up? Because these two teams have never faced each other in the playoffs. They don't have that hate on for each other as if it was a Minnesota or even St. Louis. So do you think that the series is going to kind of get to that playoff feel? Because so far it hasn't felt that way to me. I don't know how you felt about it after that game.
First of all, I should answer Rob Mahoney's question here. I have no idea the context of that question.
I said
it's Zenith.
I think I said Zenith at first, and I was like, and then
as he corrected him,
I was thinking,
and then I brought up. Remember, Mike, the old hockey player Zenith Komarniski? Do you remember that player?
Yeah, but what? Yes, I do.
There's no context. By the way,
didn't he play for the Moose?
I think he did.
Dave?
Yeah, I remember he played for the Lightning.
1.0. I think that
actually.
I think Mike actually is right though.
He did. I do remember watching Zenith Komarniski. But yes, it's Zenith. Zenith.
Yeah. Oh, no, you didn't. Mike said it.
Now, what was the question? Sleepy series, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Rick Bowness actually on the panel last night, and he said something similar, which was, no bad blood. Like, these guys don't hate each other. There we are.
Played for the Moose in 2001, 2002.
10 games.
Yeah, and he played.
53 games.
77, 53.
Wow. Yeah.
And then his last
20 goals
stretch.
from the Moose. Okay.
Yeah, he was
I mean, I think you almost need something to happen to get the blood boiling, a controversial hit. And, again, Dallas plays such a different style than the Blues. Like, you look back to Game 1, that first period, what was it, 32 hits?
Yeah.
And Dallas had 10 the other night. So, that just showed like that first 20 minutes against the Blues, when Braden Chen was out there leaping into every Jet, I think he had 8 of those hits alone in that period. So he almost had as many hits as the entire Dallas Stars team. That clearly got the emotions going early, and we didn't really see anything quite like that. There was no really after the whistle stuff. Certainly nothing controversial happened. It's I think a combination of the fact that that nothing like that happened in Game 1, but I think it's more to do with, as much as both teams might have said that this wasn't going to be the case, there was a hangover from their respective Game 7s. You can't come off, especially for the Jets and how they did it, although Dallas was pretty dramatic as well.
Yeah.
They did have one extra day of rest, but to me that was just everybody exhaling, and now you're building back up again. So I expect tonight's game to have a lot more bite, probably a little more nastiness to it, a little more, certainly more intensity. And I think part of that is because the Jets, from everything they've said, they're going to come out with that. And I expect the Stars to try and counter that. So, this should be a little more spicy affair, I suspect.
Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press is our guest. This is the Illegal Curve pregame show coming to you live from Cityplace second floor ahead of the Jets and the Dallas Stars. We know that stopping Mikko Rantanen is almost an impossibility, Mike, but the Jets have to find a way to slow him down. Who takes on that role for this team? I mean, he almost single-handedly won the Dallas Stars the Game 1 in that 8-minute stretch where he had the natural hat trick. Who on the Jets is going to be primarily responsible for ensuring that doesn't happen again tonight?
Well, it's easy to sit here and say Adam Lowry's line because that was kind of the game plan in Game 1. And, talking to Scott Arniel after the game, he liked what the Lowry line did against Rantanen.
Right.
The problem was
that
they double shifted him, and that's where you have to tip your cap to Pete DeBoer, veteran coach.
Yeah.
It's not easy when you're the road team to get favorable matchups because you don't have the benefit of last change, certainly after a whistle or prior to a faceoff. But Pete DeBoer was clearly able to catch the Jets by surprise a little bit in terms of how he used Rantanen and creating what you could say were some mismatches. I think one of the goals he scored was against Winnipeg's fourth line. So that's where, they're not going to surprise the Jets again tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how does Scott Arniel, if Dallas wants to do that again and double shift Rantanen, do we start to see Adam Lowry double shifting? And do we see the Jets shorten their bench in a way to offset what the Stars are doing? I know Scott Arniel says he's very comfortable, doesn't matter, with matchups, having everyone out there, but I think we saw a guy like Rantanen, such a special player. You give him just the smallest amount of time and space, especially when he's feeling it like he is right now, and it doesn't take much. So, that'll be one of the games within the game to keep an eye on tonight because...
do you think that Pete DeBoer does it again? Do you think he double shifts him again? Because I was saying to Dave and Ezzy before you jumped on that now that they've stolen home ice advantage, do you worry about tiring out a player like that if you continually double shift them game after game after game?
It's interesting. I think Rantanen's minutes the other night, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, it was just under 20. Like it wasn't an absurd number.
Right. Now Dallas, like Connor McDavid minutes.
Right. And Dallas only had 2 power plays in that game. So it's not like it was 5 or 6 where he was loading up on. So, I mean, his ice time, even with double shifting him, it wasn't ludicrous where you'd say, oh, my goodness, it wasn't Neil Pionk's 46 minutes from Game 7 where you're like, get him an IV. So, I mean, if they can find some favorable matchups and still get him in the 20-minute mark, like that's pretty good coaching by Pete DeBoer.
Yeah.
I think, he said after the game the other day, let's keep it going. Let's see. He's been in, and this is the most remarkable thing of all, 12 straight goals that he's factored in on, and which is an all-time record. This league's been around quite a while, so there's been some great players and playoff performances. The fact that he now owns that record outright by 3.
Yeah.
Over, by the way, a guy named Mario Lemieux.
Over a guy named Mario Lemieux. Like that is just ridiculous. And, I mean, if you're the Jets, you're hoping the Stars don't score any tonight. But if they score a goal and Rantanen's not involved in it, is that a minor victory? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But in any event, and that's the thing about the Stars, like we're a lot of focus on Rantanen out of game one.
Right.
Scott Arniel mentioned today, they got a lot of good players on their team. They do. We just didn't see a ton from Rope Hintz or Jason Robertson, who was just coming back off his injury. Obviously, Wyatt Johnson's a heck of a player. So they've got a lot of guys that can hurt you. And the Jets can't forget about them.
Right.
And almost overreact on Rantanen and focus just on one player. Because if they do that, there's a good chance some of those other guys are going to burn you too.
Mike, on these post-game shows, you're on a lot of pardon me, this is a pre-game show.
Yes.
Okay.
When you're talking pre-game
Good
shows,
morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. It's going to be morning by the time Dave already called a double OT game, and we're going to be doing the post-game show
Well,
like
not
1 in the
that I don't
morning.
Dave's driving me to the airport if that happens. Let the record show.
It's going to be a little bit of a quick turnaround.
We got to stop
for you,
at my
Mike.
house because I got to get my suitcase. So
fair enough.
it's packed, but all right.
Yeah, maybe you should just pack it right now, Mike.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we always talk about players that can step up, right? And for me, I keep looking at Nikolai Ehlers, right? Because it's been well documented that Nikolai Ehlers, his playoff numbers, his points per game is like 0.4 or something versus, what is it in the regular season, 0.7, 0.8. I mean, we know that in years past, Nikolai Ehlers has been criticized for not coming through in the playoffs. Is he one guy? Is that too obvious to say that he's a guy that you're looking at and saying he needs to step up with not just an assist or a goal, but he needs to step up with a big performance? Because obviously, you're not just talking about a secondary scorer here. You're talking about the guy who was third on the team in points this year.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. We don't know exactly what Nikolai Ehlers' injury was. It's been interesting to see, though. Like he's noticeably struggled, especially with things like puck handling,
right?
Which, I mean, we know he had a lower body injury. It's not like he broke his wrist or something, and yet and maybe this is just.
Is it a timing?
That's what it says to me. It just shows the pace of, say, playoff hockey versus regular season, and that's where, I know Scott Arniel was making a joke about Game 45. One thing that, the pace of the game, even last game, there may not have been the intensity. That was not a Game 45 pace. And I think we saw a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, he's maybe struggling to get up to speed with the speed of the game, which is weird to say for a guy who's all about the speed.
Right.
But, the hands are maybe the last thing to come around sometimes. So I think that that would be a good start. Like, I'll be watching him early today, and if he looks like he's handling the puck a bit better, I think that's a good sign because his skating seems fine.
I didn't think Ehlers was bad in game one, right? He had that chance where he was just wide. He cut to the net, right? I just think he's a guy that he needs to produce, right? It's at that point we don't know if he's going to be around next year.
Right,
I mean, everybody knows that he's a pending UFA, right? I just feel like if there's Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, I just thought they were as advertised. They were great in game one. I just feel like Ehlers specifically, I hope he pops one in tonight because I think it would really benefit him for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and I think with each passing game, we're going to see Nikolai Ehlers getting better and better. And so this would be a good time to kind of vintage-type performance from him that we have not seen a whole lot. Now, again, when you talk about playoffs with him, he's had a very unfortunate history of playoffs where he's often either been hurt and missed or he's playing hurt.
Right.
Gabe Velarde's another one. Like, he's got 1 assist in the 4 games. Certainly had some close calls, and he's still doing the things that you expect. He's vacuuming up pucks in the offensive zone on the forecheck. But there's another guy, again, that missed more time than Ehlers and is probably still trying to get up to speed as well. So certainly for the injured players, it's great to have them back. To expect them to be 100% right off the hop was not going to be the case. But Ehlers and Velarde, they each have another game under their belts. And certainly this would be a great time for us to see kind of the best versions of them.
Well, Mike, we talk about puck touches and that idea of holding on to the puck, and that was one of the themes that Scott Arniel discussed. And I thought it was interesting because, as we observed in that St. Louis series, the Jets didn't have time and space. They had a puck. Well, guess what? They were going to be put through the boards or get an open ice hit, but they had a Blues player on them. They never had any time and space. And you could see that bleed into the game against Dallas, because even though they had the puck and they had time, obviously something that Scott Arniel reviewed after watching the game back and saying, whoa, we had time and space. So do you anticipate we'll see that adjustment for a team that is going to say, listen, we got to hold on, we got to possess that puck and make a good pass as opposed to what we're doing, which is really hurting our game?
That would have been probably a fascinating film session because I imagine Scott Arniel would have probably had a lot of instances where he stopped the tape and said, like, to a certain player, like, okay, why are you getting rid of it here? Like, look how much ice you have. You know, get the old Howie Meeker telestrator out. But you're right. It's almost probably a bit of PTSD, really, for the Jets. Like you said, they're hearing footsteps still from the Blues, but Dallas doesn't play that way. Dallas was giving them some time and space. The Jets just weren't taking advantage of it. And this is a Jets team, as Scott Arniel reminded us, that's a pretty good puck possession team. So, yeah, I do expect that that's going to be a big adjustment. And so, you know, that's where if you're the Jets, you're hoping you can get the cycle game going and hem the Stars in a little bit, maybe catch them on a long shift and take advantage of that. Because you're right, too often the other day, I think they were just passing up the puck. At times they didn't have to, and it would just kill plays before they could materialize into much of anything.
Well, as he asked you about Nikolai Ehlers, Scott Arniel clearly was not happy with the performance of Cole Perfetti, Vlad Nemesnikov.
Said we had absolutely nothing going from a couple of our lines, and that would have been one of them.
Certainly, and then he flipped some guys to try and generate some juice. What are you expecting now that, again, the Game 7 hangover, that's done with? Are you expecting sort of a bounce back performance from Perfetti, who was arguably the Jets' best forward in that entire first round against the St. Louis Blues?
I am, yeah, absolutely. And Vlad Nemesnikov certainly in that category as well. I mean, he stepped up big when he had to, for sure, in an elevated role. Now he's back into a more familiar role with Scheifele being back in the lineup. And that line, it would run hot and cold at times, right? And the last thing you want is for it to start running cold again here. Kind of the worst possible timing. And if it does, there's certainly some shifts that I guess Scott Arniel can make. One of them, guys, like Morgan Barron. How quickly before you move Morgan Barron up if you feel like that line isn't getting the job done. So, yeah, I mean, and I know there's some people that are saying the Jets need to get Cole Perfetti back on the top power play unit. I'm not sure how you do that unless you're taking Nikolai Ehlers off of it. And certainly if his puck touches are an issue, like if he's having trouble handling the puck, there's probably some merit to that. Yeah, I mean, I think you say, like, okay, got to give it a little more time. The problem is you don't have a whole lot of time in the playoffs, especially when you drop Game 1.
Game 8 of the series.
Right. I mean, this isn't a must-win for the Jets, but it's a
wanna-win.
It's a really want-to-win this because, if you have to go win 4 out of the next 5 and at least 2 would now have to come on the road, like that's a big ask. So, if they can get tonight, turn this into a best of 5. Jets were a real good road team. They weren't any good in the first round. You wouldn't expect that to necessarily continue. And it's series on. So, yeah, this is a huge game for tonight. Jets have no excuses. They got their full roster at their disposal. And I would expect to see a Jets team that looks a little more like itself tonight.
Mike, we've talked a lot about the top line. We've talked a lot about the top 6, touched on the top 3. Morgan Barron, you guys spoke with him. Dave was there as well. I guess that's what I was referencing when I said you guys talking to Morgan Barron. But I look at that fourth line, and when you get Nikolai Ehlers back, when you get Gabe Vilardi back, that allows you now to have the optimal fourth line.
Yeah.
Just like you have the optimal, I think the optimal, at least the advanced stats say the optimal third pair is Colin Miller and not Logan Stanley. It is Hayden Fleury. Sorry, I forgot there for a second. It's been a lot of pre- and post-game shows, Mike, but I think this fourth line has a lot more to give. And obviously, we saw them less in Game 1 because the Jets were chasing.
Right.
You see that oftentimes, but is that something that you're also looking at in this game that maybe that line can contribute? Because as we know, the Jets all year long, the strength of this team has been you get contributions from all 4 lines.
Yeah, and I mean, that fourth line now, 2/3 of it has been playing in the top 6 recently in Morgan Barron and Alex Iafallo. So, and we know what Brandon Tanev brings. He's the kamikaze, as I think Kelly Moore referred to him the other day. So, yeah, I think that fourth line, it's not only the best version of the fourth line the Jets have had this season, it has the potential to be one of the better fourth lines in the playoffs. And natural order, I guess, has been restored a bit with Scheifele back and those other injured players. Everyone's kind of settled now into a more familiar role, and now guys have to play to their expectations and above. I mean, that's the thing. Just playing good enough isn't good enough in the playoffs. You got to be a notch better, because chances are the guys that you're on the ice against are probably elevating their game. So we need to see some of that from the Jets, and I would agree with you, Ezzy. Certainly that third pairing tonight. And again, I think this speaks to the style of series this is. Yep. This is not the St. Louis Blues, where you say, okay, Logan Stanley, Luke Shen, we need some bangers and crashers. We need guys that aren't afraid to mix it up because things are going to get nasty. Yeah. We're just not seeing that so far anyways with the Dallas Stars. You want some mobile, puck-moving guys back there. Fleury and Miller certainly provide that, and I think that gives the Jets some additional comfort with no matter who they have on the ice, forwards or D, that they are in pretty good shape regardless.
You know, Mike, one of the things you talked about earlier, you mentioned how the Dallas got out to that 9-0 shot advantage. And Scott Arniel talked about it. He said that their starts haven't been great. How important is tonight that they actually do get off to a good start, that they, have the crowd engaged right away, that they do something? Again, I'm not saying they have to score, a minute 45 seconds in. Right. If they do, I will go buy a Lotto Max ticket. But just
it's $80 million today.
I saw that, so that's why I'll go buy one. But the point is that but just in case I did win, I would still be doing these post and pre-games, just so you know.
Oh, wow.
I would still be doing them. Wow. Just so everyone's clear.
Dave's not like BSing,
from a remote island?
No.
I'm on the record, by the way. I'm out.
Okay,
I was going to say, Dave would keep doing the show. Drew and I would be gone.
No,
we would be on a remote island. Dave M would be in the exact same
one-man
place.
show, yeah.
See Dave at Moose practice tomorrow.
I forgot to tell you, you'd both be fired. But anyway, sorry, Mike. So just that idea, though, of getting off to a good start, because, again, that has been such an area of – it hasn't hurt them, and they did it in St. Louis, not that it helped them, but the fact of the matter is how critical for today's game, when you really know that, look, you got your good lineup, you're going to have the crowd behind you, everybody's going to be excited to get off to that start, to get that crowd, get everything, that juice flowing early.
Yeah, and it's a bit puzzling, isn't it, that it continues to be an issue. Like, you had the excuse game one of round one. It's like, okay, everyone's nervous, overwhelmed, and even game 7, you could say that maybe the moment was almost too big for them initially, but it seems odd that it keeps happening. Everyone's aware of it. Everyone talks about it, and then they come out and are kind of flat again. Yeah. So, I think part of that is the opponent too. Like they're trying to come out and assert their will on the road and kind of set the tone. And the Jets just haven't, been able to match that early. So, yeah, it's very important for sure. Scoring the first goal isn't the be-all and end-all. The Jets scored the first goal the other night, and they lost. But certainly building some momentum, stringing some shifts together. If you're the Jets, trying to get the crowd behind you, and then maybe drawing some early power plays, 1 or 2. Because the power play is certainly overdue. Like, my goodness, Kyle Connor has not scored a power play goal in like 50-something games.
In the calendar year.
It is just incredible.
Yeah.
And
you heard it here first. Kyle Connor scoring a power play goal tonight. Mike's guarantee.
They are.
It's a Mike guarantee.
They're giving out. They're giving out KFC buckets. I think at the rink tonight. So
they rebranded apparently a KFC on Portage.
Yes.
But Mike, is there chicken in the buckets though? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, but if Kyle Connor has a big night, are we going to see the first ever bucket trick? Like buckets raining down.
It'll be better than the peanut butter game, right, Mike?
It would. I mean, if you're Kyle Connor, you got to get to the greasy areas of the ice, right? Which shouldn't be hard if there's fried chicken flying all over the place.
A KFC 3-piece hat trick.
What I'm trying to figure out is why the good people at KFC haven't tapped my wife to be involved in the promotion, given she's from Kentucky.
Oh,
yeah. She's actually like the marketing company is falling down on the job here.
Drew wants a piece of that action.
Of course I do. I'm going to be her agent. I'm going to take 25% off the top, no question about it.
Well, the Jets are hoping for a finger-licking good performance tonight, and certainly a hot start would set the tone for that. Agreed.
Before we let you go, Mike, do you think Spency stole that bike?
I have a great bike theft story of downtown, actually, years ago when I worked at the law courts down here. The easiest bike theft ever. So I leave my lock I left my key in the lock. I forgot to take it out. However, a very kind sheriff's officer at the courthouse noticed this. Didn't know it was my bike, though. Just puts a note on the bike saying, saw that you left your key, took it inside, come get it from the sheriff's security desk. To which point, some enterprising thief walks in, says, "Oh yeah, that's my key." The sheriff's officer hands him the key to my lock. So not only does the guy ride away with my bike,
he's also got the lock.
he has my lock and key as well, so he can safely lock it up to protect it from people like him. And that was like an $800 bike gone. So yeah,
that is a great story. So
yes.
we're going to leave it on that. We'll let you get back to the rink in time for Game 2 between the Jets and the Dallas Stars.
It's like a junkyard dog walk.
What time is the print deadline? What time does
so
this game have to be over?
They are holding the paper. Normally our print deadline's like 10:15, which we're only going to be in the second period. They are holding the paper.
Yeah.
So I've got to file literally at the buzzer tonight, which will probably be around 11:30.
Yeah.
If there's overtime, they will not be holding the paper. It'll be a web-only special. So as long as it ends in regulation, I will be filing at the buzzer, and then we do a write-through for the website with quotes and reactions. So, it could be a bit of a hair-on-fire night. We shall see.
Well, I look forward to either reading it in the paper tomorrow, my physical copy, or reading about it online. Mike McIntyre. I do both. Of course I do. I have a print subscription and everything else. Mike McIntyre, the Winnipeg Free Press. Travel safe. Enjoy Game 2. Under the deadline, under the pressure.
If you win that Lotto Max, are you picking me up in a limo to take me to the airport? Because you said you're picking me up.
That's true. Right. That is true. Although I think, isn't the draw tomorrow, or is it today?
No, it's today, Friday.
Oh, it's today?
Lotto Max is on Friday.
You obviously didn't win the 50-50 the other night at the Jets game, because that...
I always forget to check.
Somebody walked out of the rink like a millionaire. In addition to a Game 7 victory.
That's right.
That person had a great
even
night.
If I did, I couldn't say it because then Ezzy and Drew would ask for raises, and I don't want to do that.
That's true.
Wait, you pay them? No, I was going to settle for payment. Never mind raises.
No, we pay them in drinks.
There you go.
Okay.
Thanks. Mike, thank you.
Enjoy the game, guys.
Enjoy the game.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll go to break. The Illegal Curve Pregame show live here at Cityplace continues.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. Cityplace is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make Cityplace your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit Cityplace at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
A big thanks to our friend Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press for joining us on the Illegal Curve pregame show. We're live here, second floor, City Place. Everybody getting ready. You can feel the vibe, getting closer to game time, yet which is still somehow about an hour and 10 minutes away, even though it's already 7:40 p.m. But that's TV.
We got a lot of shows coming up this weekend, boys. Like, even for us, this is a lot of shows.
So let's recap it real quick. We got the Illegal Curve pregame show. That's happening right now.
That's live.
That's live. You're watching it. If you can
It's
hear
not
my
fake
voice.
live.
No,
It's
it's
real
real live.
live.
Exactly. After the game, later tonight at some indeterminate time, depends on if there's overtime or if not, there's going to be the Illegal Curve post-game show. That'll carry over you over until Saturday morning, into the wee hours of Saturday morning.
Correct.
And then a few hours after that, whenever we wrap that show up, we'll have the Illegal Curve hockey show. That's coming up at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Should I just sleep
as
at
well.
the rink?
I mean, you don't have to. You have a place to live.
That's
so,
true.
I mean,
Maybe I'll steal Spency's bike and then I'll go for a ride.
there you go. That's
And I was
going to
say, that's definitely Spency's bike. And Spency
Could you imagine if that was actually Mike's bike?
Because Spency is schwitzing. Spency's schwitzing like I schwitz.
But could you imagine if like the story came full circle and all of a
That
sudden
was
it was like,
Mike.
and Mike's looking at the bike and goes, wait a second, that is my bike.
Here's Spency joining us on
All right,
camera
come in
there.
here, Spency.
There you go.
Whoa. Dear God.
And then tomorrow, so the Illegal Curve hockey show.
Let me touch that sweat.
The Illegal Curve hockey show tomorrow.
I got to do a whole show. Let's not.
And then the Illegal Curve post-game show on Sunday afternoon after Game 3. So as you said, a show tonight, 2 shows tonight, a show on Saturday, show on Sunday. The easiest way to make sure you never miss a minute of Illegal Curve hockey is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All you got to do is to turn on your notifications. That way you'll get alerted each and every time we go live. And if you're here at City Place right now and you're like, I want more of those people, first immediately seek help. And then if that still doesn't take
Wait, does
enough,
that include Spency?
That includes Spency, of course. Scan the QR code that's right behind me here on this big poster behind us, and that way you'll get more of Illegal Curve just by scanning that QR code. It is a busy weekend ahead. Of course, the Jets and the Dallas Stars still to come later on this
the best
evening.
when security comes by and I'm like, can you please have this man removed?
Dave, Spency is security.
Yeah, that's right. Let's talk about Mikko Rantanen. I mean, he was obviously the story of the game for the Winnipeg Jets. You know, his presence in Game 1 was a determining factor, but I think you made a good point. I don't remember which one of you two
it's the second time now.
Right. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember which one of you two said it. But I agree with you.
Where did that xylophone? Was that a xylophone, Timmy?
It was a xylophone sound effect.
Yeah.
Is that the Jets can't focus solely on him and then lose track of all the other weapons.
Sure it was Mike McIntyre.
Yeah, it was Mike who said it. Can't lose track of all the other weapons the Dallas Stars have, because I think the Jets, I think Perfetti and Ehlers and the Mesnikov, they'll be better for the Jets. But also at the same time, I expect Rupe Hintz. I expect Wyatt Johnson. I expect Jason Robertson, Matt Duchene, all the Stars. All the Stars weapons I think will be better in tonight's game. I'm expecting this to be a much higher level of Game 2 than compared to what we saw in Game 1.
Well, you mentioned you've got our friends at Daily Faceoff's line combinations up there. You look at that line of Johnston, Robertson, Mason, Marchment. I don't know if you call that the first line or the third line. The way they have it on Daily Faceoff, it's the third line, but that just shows you the depth. That's why I found it funny when Dave was saying that, some Dallas Stars fans were saying that we weren't giving them enough credit. I think maybe Dallas is the only team that can match Winnipeg's depth, right? At forward. I'm talking about there's some other deep teams. Florida, I would throw in there. I mean, Toronto maybe.
Well, it was funny because for a while it was looking like Toronto was going to go up 3-0 easy. They were up 2-0 in the game.
Is it tied now?
Florida's now come back to tie 3-3.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
It was 3-1 for Toronto. Then the Leafs just scored 2 second period goals.
Panthers scored.
Sorry, that's right. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously slowing down Mikko Rantanen. I mean, guys, he's not going to get another hat trick tonight. Probably just because I said that he is, and he's going to get the triple hat trick. But I mean, there's a lot of weapons, right? Like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin. I didn't think they had their best game. Remember, Jamie Benn turned the puck over on the Scheifele goal. Velarde stole the puck from Benn and got it to Scheifele, right?
Yes.
So I mean, this is going to be an epic series. I still think this is going 6 or 7 games. I'm not going to give my prediction, although I do think the Jets are going to win Game 2. So I did just give my prediction. But there's a lot of dangerous weapons on Dallas, and that's why having J-Mo back on the top pair is huge. I thought Hayden Fleury did an admirable job on that top pair, Dave, and obviously in Game 7 against St. Louis, he played big minutes with Morrissey out. So having Morrissey back is super important just because of how dangerous the Dallas attack is. But you're going to need more secondary scoring. You're going to need more primary scoring. The Nemesnikov, Ehlers, Perfetti line, guys, it's Captain Obvious speaking here, but they've got to be better tonight. Not saying that they were bad in game one.
Well, Scott Arniel said it.
Well, Scott
More
Arniel,
or less.
And look, it goes back to what I said, and we talked about this on the post-game show a couple nights ago, Drew. That game could have gone either way. Like, I'm sorry. That game was a close game, and that's what's funny about hockey, right? Jets are down 1-0. We're having a completely different conversation than if they're up 1-0, right? Then we're celebrating and we're doing jumping jacks about how the Jets are now up 1-0 on their arch nemesis, right, Dave? So I think you stick to the game plan. You definitely have to be better at the start of the game, period. Because the Jets struggled with that in the St. Louis series, Dave. So they've got to be better. You don't want to have another situation where the Jets are getting outshot 9-0, 10-0, whatever it is. You need players to step up, quite frankly. You need Ehlers to be better. You need Velarde to be better. Having Morrissey, having the home crowd again is going to be a huge boost. But, the Jets need, I think, to take advantage of some. Drew talked about the right side, but they need to take advantage of the fact that there's a little bit more time and space. I don't know if we'd call it a 1-3-1 that the Dallas Stars play. We don't want to get too technical here, but they definitely give you a little bit more space.
Yeah.
They
back off at the blue line.
Yes, they back off at the blue line, and then they clog up the neutral zone. So it's up to you to find a way through there. And if that means you're playing a little bit more of chip and chase hockey, Dave, then that's what you do. But the Jets have players that can spend time in the offensive zone, generate offense from the corners, generate offense off the cycle. You need to see a little bit more of that tonight.
Sorry, you sidetracked me when you started talking about jumping jacks. I was like, I wonder how many jumping jacks he can do.
4.
Didn't we talk about push-ups? Like you said,
I can actually. Well, I mean, now
we had this
old,
conversation.
Back in the day, I could do a lot of. I mean, back in the day, I could do a lot of things, Drew, that I can't do now, like touch my toes. But I could do a few push. I could probably do like Spency and I think could bang out like 20 push-ups. 20 push-ups, Spency, we could do that, no problem. Maybe even 30.
Let's not do that, right? It sounds like more of an off-season thing.
Well, we might have to film that. That could be worthwhile to film. But anyways, that's when Ezzy died. But no, I mean, look.
Is there a defibrillator on site? I think by Tim Hortons over there.
The best is like Ezzy's getting pumped and eating a donut at the same time.
Sir, you're not supposed to be eating while we're zapping you.
No, I mean, look, it's definitely, again, this Jets team has to adapt. And they have to, like, it's almost like, are they going to know how to play together because they've been, haven't been in this configuration for a while.
Sure.
But they have to step up. They have to make sure that they are playing their A game. As he says, this is not a time to take a step back. Again, you can lose game 2 and still win a series. It's not impossible. It makes it a lot more unlikely, and it makes it a lot more difficult. But the fact of the matter is, you want to be able to say, you went out because you played your game and lost. Not, we didn't play our game and lost the game. So that, to me, is what is going to be such a key focus for the Jets, is to ensure that, if you guys played your game and you lose, again, Dallas is a really good hockey team. So nobody's going to be like, okay, well, that's unexpected. You lost to a bad team. You lost to one of the best teams in the NHL.
Right.
But right now, the Jets can say they didn't play the game that we would identify as the Jets game throughout the course of the regular season and the playoffs. So are they going to play that game? And if they play that game, I think they match Dallas, and I think they win.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's not forget the Jets did beat the Stars 3 times this year. Again, playoffs are a different animal, and we often talk about this, Dave, right? Like, momentum doesn't necessarily carry forward from game to game.
Right.
But the Jets have been successful against this Dallas team, and later on in the season,
especially in
quite
big games.
successful.
Yes, exactly. In games that had a significant impact or had a significant stakes, as both teams were battling for first overall.
Florida just took the lead
in the Central Division. I saw Florida took a 4-3 lead. Apparently, it was a bad goal, is what the chat is telling us here on the Illegal Curve pregame show.
Oh, that's a shame.
To me, again, I think the power play is, now that it's at full strength. I mean, the Jets' power play, it looked good in game 1. It controlled the puck. It moved it around well. I thought that they, as I said on the post-game show, I thought that they were a little bit, unsure of themselves with Pionk's right shot at the point as opposed to Morrissey's left shot. Well, now you get Morrissey's left shot back.
Are we going to see Colin Miller there as opposed to Pionk?
No, Pionk's still going to be...
Yeah.
I mean, you might see a 3, and you might see 2 defensemen set up.
Yeah, and you don't see that very often.
But
to your point, Drew, the power play looked good. Like, obviously, guys, you got to score for it to look really good.
Yeah.
But I agree with what Mike said. Like, Kyle Connor has to be due. And Scott Arniel touched on it, Dave, in his pregame presser. Like, it's all about quick puck movement.
Yeah.
And obviously he didn't go into full detail, but it's also, to me, when you look at the Jets power play or any successful power play, it's when you have the opposing team on their heels and you're creating those odd man situations. I'm not going to get too much into the Ginsburg triangulation, but that's what I like to see when you have those situations where you're working it down low and you have the bumper option, or you have Gabe Vilardi.
Gabe Vilardi just stepping out, putting it to him on the goal line and just letting him pick pick the poison that he wants to inflict on the opponent, Dave.
Yeah, but I mean, we saw it, and we saw it again. But again, to me, the idea is that timing in the hands and getting it all back together. Gabriel Vilardi looks like a guy who's missed some time, as does Nikolai Ehlers. And so, look, Nikolai Ehlers had the most critical play. Maybe Cole Perfetti did ultimately, but Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers, what they were able to do in fractions of seconds.
Right.
And I think Mike said it was like 2/100th of a second between Kyle Connor getting the puck and dishing it off that Cole Perfetti eventually put in. But the fact of the matter is that, Nikolai Ehlers has got to step up, and that's where you're going to see him excel, is when there is time and space. And so this is a time for the Jets team to adjust, which is what we've talked about, right? You have to make those in series adjustments, in game adjustments. And so that's where it's incumbent on the coaching staff to show that, listen, this team can evolve. It can't be that, okay, we won this way playing, good defensive hockey, and that's the only way we can win. You have to be able to show, like, listen, no, we can. If it's not working in that regard, I'm not saying you break your structure entirely, but I'm saying that you have to do with what, have to use what they are giving you and adjust accordingly. And so we'll see what the coaching staff can do. But again, I'm anticipating the Jets are going to play a much better game than we saw in game one.
Well, and to Dave's point, why I'm optimistic about the Jets' chances tonight is because of what you just said about how they played defensively. They were good defensively, I think, in front of Connor Hellebuyck, with the exception of Mikko Rantanen's second period scoring spree, if you want to call it that, right? Sure. Like, I keep going back to this, Dave, but 12 shots in the last two periods, right? One high danger chance against in the third period. The Jets, they didn't lose that game because they were bad and got out of their defensive structure or anything like that. They just lost by a goal. They couldn't find that tying goal. And that goes back to what I said. I think this is one of those series. Drew talked about it during the first round, how evenly matched the Jets and Blues were. Before the series started, Drew was bang on. It went to 7 games. And that's what I think is going to happen this series. I think you're going to see a win here, a win there. It's going to go back and forth. Obviously, the Jets don't like that they gave up home ice advantage. But, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. And it's those small details, like you said, Dave, if you're able to take advantage of, Ilya Lyubushkin, for example.
Cody Ceci.
Or Cody Ceci, who's not, the fastest guy. Like, if you can take advantage of that and create some more offense, spend a little bit more time in the offensive zone, then the Jets have a good chance at winning. And again, last game, they had a lot of high danger chances in the third period. They could have easily tied that game up, and then who knows what happens in overtime. But I'm feeling confident about this game tonight, for sure.
Morgan Barron had less than 10 minutes of ice time in game one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a lot of time for a guy who really was an impactful member of the Winnipeg Jets in that round one series win against the St. Louis Blues. I know that the fourth line, and I know that they were chasing the game and everything, but don't you want to see Morgan Barron maybe just get a little bit more ice time than those 8 minutes, in game two, given how, much of an impact he had in series one?
I think yes, Drew, to answer your question bluntly, because it takes pressure off of the other lines, right? Not only do you want that line to play well just for the simple fact that it helps when you have 4 lines contributing, it takes off a little bit of pressure from the Lowry line, who we expect to be up against the Mikko Rantanen line, the Granlund, Rantanen, Hintz line. Yeah. We think, right? I mean, that's what happened in all Finns. That's what we saw in game one, right? We didn't see that in the Blues series, where it was most likely you just saw the Scheifele line versus the Robert Thomas line. It was a little bit different, right? You definitely have to game plan a little bit more for Hintz, Rantanen, and Granlund. There's just so much skill there. So yeah, you absolutely, I think, want to see more out of that fourth line. And this fourth line, like, I agree with what Mike said. I mean, the Dallas Stars have some talent on that fourth line. I've always really liked Sam Steele. Feel like we were talking about him in his draft year. But when you've got Morgan Barron, Alex Iafallo, and Brandon Tanev, 2 guys which have already played in top 6 roles, right? I mean, it's a huge benefit. So hopefully they can chip in with a goal tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see more. I mean, Alex Iafallo has been an impactful player. So for him to, again, he's not going to have as big a role as he did when he was top 6.
Right.
But, I mean, we're seeing it in other series, and that is key. What's one of the biggest things that's been hammered into our heads the entirety of this year? The depth of the Winnipeg Jets.
Depth.
So, I mean, again, You're seeing it on other teams. The Edmonton Oilers come to mind with depth guys having impacts in the playoffs.
Sure.
And so, I think it was like Victor Arvidsson had 2 goals in the regular season and has 2 goals in the playoffs. That was a stat from a few games ago.
Yeah.
So, again, I can't remember I've watched some of the Oilers games because of the late one, so I've been able to catch those no problem. Hell of a good game yesterday, by the way. I know it's the Jets show, but that Oilers...
They're on a heater.
Well... they're up 4-2, and you're like, okay, this one's over. And then, of course, it's 4-4, and you're like, okay. And then they have that 5-minute major in OT, and you're like, okay, well, they're going to end it. Hyman puts it off the crossbar. McDavid puts it off the post, and you're like, okay. And then they miss that, speaking of Arvidsson, that penalty he very much deserved to get called on.
Yeah.
Doesn't get called, and then no surprise, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl do what they do, and that was
absolutely undressed Jack Eichel.
Eichel wasn't. He's standing still basically, and McDavid's like, okay.
But Eichel's a great defensive forward.
You got to credit Corey Perry.
He made one of the best forwards in the league, Dave, look like me. Like you made him look like a schlub.
No, there's no question. But
Ezzy, he lost the game. Let's not really insult the guy.
but I'm just saying, like it's just, and I remember when Corey Perry was cut loose from Chicago, and he was going to go, and I said right away he will 100% end up on Edmonton, and he has looked really good on the Oilers. He's that guy who goes right to every time you watch one of their games, it's like, oh, there's Corey Perry getting buried in front of the net, but it's what he does, and he's
a guy you say, Dave. You love to hate him, but you want him on your team.
And look at but again, speaking of depth, Evander Kane, like a guy who has not played all season for them, but if you look at his numbers in the playoffs, I think he's got like 26 playoff goals for the Oilers in like 50-something games. So that's what you need from the Jets. It's not just about. It's not just. I'm going to bring it back to this team now.
Thank you.
So people don't think we're doing Oilers lunch.
Yeah, what is this, Oilers lunch?
But my point is that you need the guys like Iafallo and Barron and even though obviously Lowry and Niederreiter and Appleton to be contributors. It can't just be about. Fine if you want to see if Adam Lowry goes up against. Mikko Rantanen, and he holds them to 0, and they're at even.
You'll take that as a win.
That's more than a win.
Right.
And look, Pete DeBoer obviously has a lot of respect for Adam Lowry because he spent quite a bit of time today in the Matt Frost Media Center lauding the Jets center and talking about how good he is defensively. So I think he said he was again, I was there, but I was kind of already working on the Jets stuff, so I was listening, but not. I was passively listening, as he not actively.
We haven't been able to clone you so that you can do 2 things at once.
Not yet, at least. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that he was basically saying, I think he said he was like either top 3 or top 5 defensively as a center.
Well, there's a lot of people who think that Lowry was not, that he should have been nominated for the Selke.
Well, I'm sure he got some votes.
I'm sure
I was going to say he does get votes.
Yeah, there's no question he got votes, but there's some people I saw.
I won't say who I voted for, but
okay, that's good.
Let's be honest.
We'll wait till your ballot comes out later on.
It's Sasha Barkov's award, though, Drew. Let's be honest here, right?
That's a separate issue. Yes, but there were a lot of people who were surprised that he wasn't one of the finalists. Yeah. Is what I saw. Certainly online.
I have time to hear that
from some respected journalists.
I guess he'll be in the top 5 or top 7.
I would agree. Top 7 for sure. Top 5 would right on the cusp
there.
There, probably.
5 to 7 is my guess.
You obviously want to see him, perform that way, and not to say that he was responsible for Rantanen's performance in Game 1 or that he wears the goat horns, but he knows that that's a key matchup and that's a key determining factor in this series is slowing him down. If you slow Rantanen down, and if Jason Robertson beats you or Wyatt Johnson beats you, so be it. Whatever. Both teams have really good forward depth, but Dallas's forward depth is better than the Jets. We talked about that in the pregame show.
Evidently we didn't, based on the fact that some people didn't hear us say that.
Well, people listen to what they want to hear, but I think we all, in terms of the scoring depth, Dallas has got a little bit more high-end talent in terms of offensive capabilities among their forward group. The Jets better on the back end, I would say, right at this point. But these are the intricate matchups. These are the fine details that are going to be the determining factors between the Jets and the Dallas Stars. This is what's going to make the difference. This is what's going to determine if it's a 1-1 series heading to Dallas on Sunday or if it's a 2-0 Dallas Stars series lead. These are the small details, the small battles, the game within the game. There you go. Go Jets, go with some fans here.
Right on.
Holler at us at Cityplace. And the guy there, you got the full outfit on. I like that. You're ready for the game as well. Game 2 between the Jets and the Dallas Stars in about 50 minutes time. And we remind everybody.
If you're a painter in this city, though, you're not going to have any opportunity opportunity to have overalls because they've all been purchased.
Everybody's wearing their white painters outfits and the painters smocks, ready for the whiteout party. No question about it.
I want one of those buckets of chicken that they're giving out.
No, it's an empty bucket. It's just a bucket without any.
That lady agrees with
You
me.
have to bring your own chicken for
But
it.
you do realize that he would be the only person who would find some said chicken. And
That's true. Somehow he would
Like
come
Dave,
up with
I'm
chicken.
just walking around the street party with like a handful of chicken.
No, the best would be actually as he would put a live chicken in there and walk around with a live chicken in that bucket.
Don't give him any ideas. He's still got time in it.
There's gonna be
I love my chicken.
He's got
nothing
time and
better than
initiative.
I'm going to be inside the in the press box, and I'm going to be getting messages of like videos of Ezzy walking around the street party with a live chicken in this bucket.
Yeah, there you go. He's going to be Kramerica Industries.
We tried for that chicken.
I know, we tried. That's it for us, the Illegal Curve pregame show. We remind everybody after the game tonight, the Illegal Curve postgame show on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, on all of our social media platforms. Be sure to join us to talk about Game 2. Be sure to join us tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. for the Illegal Curve hockey show on that same YouTube channel. And again,
should we tell everybody who we have for tomorrow morning show?
Well, we can. We can, of course, mention that our good friend Rick Ralph, formerly of
Slick Rick.
Slick Rick is going to join us. You remember him from the pre- and post-game shows back in the day on the old terrestrial radio. Slick Rick is going to join us to talk about the Jets and the Dallas Stars and the Jets playoff run. We look forward to that tomorrow morning. Thanks to everybody who joined us here at Cityplace for the Illegal Curve pregame show. We'll see everybody a little bit later on. Producer Tim gets all the accolades in the world. He does a great job for making us sound so good. For Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I am your host, Drew Mandel. We'll see everybody later on for the post-game show. This has been the Illegal Curve pregame show.